Begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, our beloved Guru Deva, Paramahansa Yoganandaji, saints of all religions, beloved Swamiji, we humbly bow before you all. Divine Mother, great masters of Kriya Yoga, we thank you for your presence in our lives. Help us to practice diligently, to remove all obstacles that would keep us from knowing thee. Take residence in our heart, that all that we do in this world, every thought, every action, we feel your love infusing it. And may it be that all whom we meet feel you through us. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
When I saw those in me, my Lord through me, my Lord, when my song flows through me.
You know, I was just walking into the room a couple of minutes ago, and Navashan asked me, can you hear me? Okay, if we should do any music. And I said to him, yeah, just do some chant that's right. And I'm actually very moved because this kind of attunement that comes with being on our path, on any path, but this path for years, and with that deep desire to go deep and to know God, and to be practicing Kriya Yoga. And of course, this talk is the path of Kriya Yoga, and tonight we'll talk about Kriya Yoga. But Kriya Yoga is this chant, and that's what came to Navashan. That is so beautiful to me. You know, often when we do a Sunday service, every Sunday, of course, there are people who pick a reading from Whispers from Eternity. Of course, most of you know with the Sunday service, the readings, Swami Kriyananda wrote a book that has a reading from the Bible and a reading from the Bhagavad Gita. And basically, they always say the message is the same, though in very different language, very different energy, because they were from different yugas, different times. This is what we were talking about yesterday. But you feel the message, and you feel, again, this is where Kriya is taking us. There's one truth. Doesn't matter whether it was from Jesus or Krishna, thousands of years apart. The message is the same. And people have to pick a reading, and our chanters, usually 2 or 3 people chant, pick 4 chants. They chant a little bit when people are just walking into the temple, then they chant right before the service. And most often, by the time anyone, but I'll just speak about myself, I don't give all of the sermons there by any means, but by the time we walk up, who's ever speaking, the inspiration is so not just uplifted, but on, right on the vibration, because they've meditated on the reading and they have found the perfect whispers, just like the Navashan just picked. Listen to the song. We're talking about Kriya Yoga. We're talking about a practice that with commitment, with energy, is going to bring us right into our astral spine, away from everything that's pulling us out or bringing us down, which I'm sorry to tell us, all of us, is most of what goes on in our life still. We don't think that way, most of us, probably all of you, or few of you in the room would say, oh, I'm suffering so much through this life. But we do suffer. We know that. Everything Master and Swamiji has told us and shown us. We go up, we go down. We go up, we go down. And Kriya Yoga is a practice that says, you do this. You create enough magnetism in your spine, and it will draw everything in. And I'll have to repeat some of this tonight, but it seems to be coming out right now as well, so there you have it. I prayed and asked him what he wanted me to tell you, so here it is. From the Irda and the Pingala, which are where our likes and dislikes, our emotions, that desire to run everything, to actually think that we're in charge of anything, never mind how most of us, we go through life thinking we're in charge of everything. We worry about every decision. We try and control, whether it's our children, our partners, our professional choices. But really, we actually really have nothing to worry about. The only thing we need to do is remember to keep coming back to God. What do you want from me, Master? How will you direct me? That's why when you listen to the words of this chant, the Yogananda wrote, and it's so perfect for right now. Life is sweet, death is a dream. Death is a dream. Nothing happens when we die, but our minds don't know that. Joy is sweet, sorrow is a dream. Health is sweet, death is a dream. Praise is sweet, blame is a dream. Now imagine if we could live that, if we could live knowing that it's all a dream, that the masters are dreaming, that death, illness, blame. Imagine how you feel when you're blamed about something. Everybody's been there. We don't like that. And just imagine what it would be like. Master's saying, life is sweet when thy song flows through me. What is the song? The song is the energy in our astral spine. That's exactly what's going on. That's exactly what Kriya Yoga, the whole practice, even Hang Sa, for those of you who don't have Kriya, it doesn't matter. We do a simple, seemingly simple mantra. Almost everybody in the room is doing it. I see a couple of new faces, so I don't know. But it's a simple mantra. We breathe in, we say Hang, I am, basically, much nicer in Sanskrit, right? With the vibration of the language. We breathe out and we go back down. Not our physical spine, our astral spine. Sa, that. I am that. I am the divine. I am that. I am the divine. What would I ever worry about? Master called Hang Sa baby Kriya. And what do we think? These are all just techniques. They're taking us to the goal. Master said very clearly, don't mistake the technique for the goal. So if we practiced Hang Sa, if everybody's always in a hurry to get Kriya, everybody. They walk in the front door, why are you here? We want Kriya, and we want it fast. What do you mean it's going to take a year? Why do we have to be disciples? I mean, we hear it all the time. It's not like a once-in-a-while thing. And if you ask yourselves, and if you remember, you were in a hurry. You really wanted Kriya. And of course, I understand that. Of course I do. I love Kriya. But if we practiced Hang Sa, one of the most simple, most people love it. In fact, truthfully, I've had several people who have called me in distress after getting Kriya, saying to me, these true stories. There was a woman, I live in what's called Northern California. It's not really all the way up north, but it's up the coast. A woman called me from Southern California and asked me, as a Kriyacharya, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. So what happened, this is just happenstance, if that exists. I had gone down to Southern California to our LA center and presided over a Kriya initiation down there in about November. And then the pandemic hit. So nobody was checking in with her. Nobody was helping her because nobody was seeing each other. So she said, I was doing the numbers of Kriya that I was supposed to do, and I wasn't getting anywhere. So I increased it, and I increased it, and I increased it. She was crying. She said to me, I hate it. I used to move into bliss all the time with Hang Sa. All the time. I felt like my breath stopped and I left my body. And now that I'm doing Kriya, it's work and I hate it. So I said to her, stop doing Kriya right now. She said to me, are you serious? I said, absolutely. Stop it. Let's get you back into your spine. Let's help you remember what the purpose of this is. Then we will slowly and gently introduce the next technique. If you need it, people say a lot of things, but quite frankly, if she was already leaving her body, she didn't need anything else. You know, it's an interesting thing that we're talking about, but here we are all about to do Kriya, which is a wonderful technique for the vast majority of people to get us into this chant where we remember Smriti in Sanskrit, not with our minds remember, but we remember, we know it with our whole being. Oh my goodness, I forgot all of these lifetimes. This is a dream. This isn't real. Life is real. Joy is real. Health is God-given, right? Praise doesn't mean anything, none of it, when God's energy is flowing through us. And this really is the purpose of Kriya, is to help us let go of all of our attachments, all of those likes and dislikes, all of those innumerable little vrittis where everything keeps getting stuck. And it is so hard. I was talking with somebody this morning who was talking to me about what we all suffer with. Our mind gets in the way. That's what happens when we sit to meditate. You can call it racing, you can call it whatever you want. There was a woman who told Swamiji at one point, or master, doesn't matter. She said to him, my child was almost dying. My child was so sick. All I wanted to do was pray. But I would find myself making shopping lists, planning dinners. Very hard to quiet the mind. But as I was saying yesterday, if you get into a battle with it, it won't work. But if you just stop and say Hang Sa, if you just lift your energy to the point between the eyebrows, if you energize a little bit, whatever you do, don't fight. You come back into the center of your being. Then you can transcend those likes and dislikes. You know, I think most of you know or have heard of Devarshi, Nayaswami Devarshi, who's the head, he wouldn't like to hear that, but he's starting with a lot of help. The monastery in India, the first Ananda monastery. It's a great work. He's a great soul, and he's doing a great work. He was married for many years to a woman named Maria, who he was really deeply in love with. I mean, you could see it, you could feel it. She developed breast cancer, and for 10 years, and we all knew her over those 10 years, she, just looking for want to make sure that I remember the Maria mantra. He says it's gotten to be known as the Maria mantra. She had breast cancer, she battled it, his words. She never really battled, it wasn't her nature. She was an amazing, highly evolved soul. But she went through surgeries and chemos, and it kept recurring. And they were down in Texas just teaching one weekend, and suddenly she became very dizzy. She lost some of her vision, and she knew right away that the cancer had gone to her brain. She still gave service the next day, by the way, after all this started. I mean, just imagine that, just that. You suddenly know that your cancer is in your brain, and you just stand up and give a great sermon. I'm saying these things because this is the path of Kriya. You know, many years ago, I'm going to come back to the Maria story, I'll remember, because it's really what I want to talk about today. But this is a wonderful story. At the beginning of Inner Renewal Week, which is about to go on at Ananda Village, it's a week-long program, but for 4 mornings, Jyotish and Devi give an hour-and-a-half long talk. And it's much smaller than what we all know as Spiritual Renewal Week. And it was started for just the village. So usually the people that come are devotees who've been on the path for a long time. So after the first talk, Devi comes up to me and said to me, can we talk to you tomorrow morning? I said, sure, they're starting this week. But not only are they my spiritual teachers, which they are, they're my teachers, what can I say? But we have a very nice friendship. It's one of those things, it's like the way some people were with Swamiji. He was obviously their teacher, but they were also friends. He would call for their opinion and loved to have dinner or tea with whoever his friends were. So I said, sure. So that, I was staying out at the meditation retreat. It's about a 15-minute drive. And I said to myself on the way out, one of them has cancer. I just felt that. One of them has cancer. So I go over the next morning before class, and they say to me, Jyotish has bladder cancer. This is years ago. Everybody knows this now. It was devastating to me at first. But Jyotish said to me, what's the worst thing that could happen now? He said to me. I said, Jyotish, I don't even know what kind of a cancer this is. There are many types of bladder cancer. He says, okay, worst cancer, worst case scenario. Calmly, beautifully, sitting in their living room having tea. I said, you could die. He said, that's the worst? I said, well, you might have to go through some chemos. He said, that's the worst? I said, they might have to remove your bladder and put a tube there. I mean, he just wanted to have it all, what was going to happen. And then we finished our tea. They go to teach. They teach the whole week, never said a word about it. He has cancer. He has these images. This is extraordinary. This is what this path does for us. Now, I'm a physician. Most of you know that. I've seen, I don't know, I don't want to exaggerate, but at least 1,000 people with cancer. Believe me, that is not what happens most of the time. Most of the time, people become hysterical, and they don't know what to do, and they're devastated. And my God, I can't go through this. What about my family? I mean, you've seen it. We've all seen something like it. But not once you have that ability to come inside and leave all of those emotions, having turned it into devotion in the heart chakra. It's bringing, as we know, all of that energy up through the lower 3 chakras, which have the strongest hold on us to take us out into the world, to be too demanding, to get too irritated, to be a little ditzy about life. If our second, this is not a course on the chakras, to be controlling, if we don't get it right in the 3rd chakra, to misuse our power. But if we practice with these techniques that are made to move energy, we take all of that energy, all of that steadfastness, that strength, that fluidity, that creativity, that power, and we bring it into the heart. And if we can hold on, if we can do that, then we refuse to let that energy go floating out into the world, into all of the emotions that most of us feel. And it's that having everything go out as emotional attachment that gets us into trouble. But it's a huge amount of energy. It's huge. It's basically all of the energy in the world. It's infinite. That's the truth. If we can get that up through the heart to the point between the eyebrows, then somebody tells us we have cancer, and we go on to do some of the best teaching that we've ever done. Undisturbed, unperturbed. I'll live through this, whatever it is. It's my karma. I might leave. I might have to go through a lot of chemotherapy. I might have people poking me constantly, starting 1,000 IVs. I mean, whatever happens, I might have to do all that. But I can choose to be calm. I can choose that because we can. We can if we practice enough. So as Devarshi was wheeling Maria into the hospital, having arranged for an MRI of her brain, he says in his book, but I've heard him say it many times, she looked at him and she said, if I don't have cancer in my brain, I'll eat my socks. That's what she told him. She knew, of course. But he was upset. Devarshi was really upset. Actually, it was a while before he could move beyond this. And he is a great soul. I mean, just to speak honestly about the challenge that we face. It is challenging. It's simple, but it's not always easy. But she stopped and she looked up at him literally at the door going into the hospital for radiology. She took his hand and she looked at him did any of you know Maria? She was about this big. She was a powerhouse. I mean, she was so solid. Talk about having her first chakra and her third chakra in order. She did. Beautiful soul, just beautiful. But she said to him, detach yourself. These were her words. Detach yourself. Control the reactive process. Those words, that is what Kriya is about. This was such wisdom flowing through her. Detach yourself to her husband who adored her. Control the reactive process. Live the teachings. That's what she said. And that controlling the reactive process really speaks to all of what Kriya is about. You know, what Kriya means is the Kri has its origin in a word meaning action, Sanskrit. And yoga, of course, is yoga, union. So Kriya means that action, some action that will bring us into this place with the infinite, that will bring us into this place of eternal peace, of knowing all of these. Life is sweet, death's a dream. Joy is sweet, sorrow's a dream. And in these stories are so meaningful because do you think it's only Maria or Jyotish or Swamiji's Leela was always, everybody calls her Swamiji's cook. It reminds me of one time early on in my time in the Ananda community, living in Palo Alto. It was a few years in. I was already very connected with people. I was doing a lot of counseling, a lot of teaching. And David Praver wanted me to write a note. He and Asha had founded the community, and at that time, they still are, but they were spiritual directors. I just got added into that mix as colony leader and spiritual director. But he comes up to me at one point, he says, if people don't know who you are, just write in there, you're the lady who cooks all the time. I mean, I was loving cooking, but I was so much more than cooking, just tell them you're the person who cooks. So everybody calls Leela Swamiji's cook. She traveled everywhere in the world with him. She never left his side. She was so intuitively tuned into him, perfect attunement. She knew exactly what he wanted. Everything would be prepared, literally, for exactly the right second for things to ripen, be ready, be on the plate, be wherever. And she was always prepared in case he got detained. It was like watching a perfect dance, a beautiful ballet of attunement. There's no other way to describe it. And she developed lung cancer. And when she went and had the CAT scan of her chest, she came home and she told Swamiji she had lung cancer. He said, you will die from this. He told her. That's what he said to her. She went into her room. She lived in a little apartment right next to him at Crystal Hermitage. And she went in there, and she never came out. She went to die consciously. He told her, you're going to die. She went to die. He told Jyotish, this isn't going to take you. I mean, and it wouldn't have mattered. That's the point. Controlling that reactive process. It's just everything. It really is sort of all of what Kriya is about. But as I was saying, and I want to be clear, you could do this. It's the technique to take us there. I forget who it was who said it, but I think it was Swamiji who said, if you're in the middle of, or could have been Jaya, this sounds a little like a Jaya statement, but he said, if you're in the middle of practicing Kriya and you slip into ecstasy, forget the Kriya. It's a tool to take us there. So if we get there, we no longer need to do this. But that statement that she made is all about what Kriya is. Kriya is a science. Clearly, it is based on a science. How many of you have read chapter 26 in the AY? Okay, almost all of you. Very good. You get a pass. We're just thrilled you're here. Isn't it amazing? She just heard this and decided, Eliza, right? Yeah. It's very touched that you came. Believe me, he has his eyes on you. So you don't walk into something like this and then just walk away. Wherever I was. What was I talking about? Chapter 26 in the AY, thank you. Yeah. So most of you have read it. It's the chapter on Kriya Yoga. But Master starts with all of the science of it. What's happening with carbon monoxide and oxygen. What the fact that a half of a Kriya breath is, I think, worth. And he shows why this is true. That you can undo as much karma in 30 seconds. Not a half of a breath, a half of a minute. 30 seconds, that's about a Kriya breath unless you're Nara. Might take Nara a little longer to get all the way up that spine. But otherwise, for most of us, he told me that. He said to me the other day, imagine, Shanti, doing Kriya in this spine. I said, I can't. It's hard enough to imagine doing it in this spine. But anyway, a half a minute is worth 1,000 years of regular effort, like for people who have not yet been called onto a spiritual path. Of course, everybody's on this path. We're all exactly on the same path. We're following it. Some people just don't know it yet. So they're living how they're living. We know it. We're living how we're living, but we're trying really hard to make changes. But just when you think of that, when you think of 30 seconds, I mean, it's one Kriya, the impact that we can have. So to really be present, to not let your mind wander. I'll say this again tonight for those of you who come to the initiation. What we're doing here is so sacred. I know I talked yesterday about the story of Lahiri being called up into the mountains. Such a beautiful story. Most of us read it and reread it and reread it. And it's a true story. I mean, he lived, he wrote. It's not like we're trying to interpret hieroglyphics or something else and hoping we're right. He wrote this in a book. This happened. He was called into the mountains, and this magnificent temple, he describes it. I was reading it again the other night, and I was thinking, wow, could I have said, okay, take the temple away? I mean, diamonds and rubies and magnificent food. And Babaji says, it's time to eat now. What would you like? And Lahiri gets an image of his favorite Indian foods. And there is a bowl full of them. It's there. You remember this? And when he was done eating, he said, I just had the thought, I'm thirsty. All the food disappears from the bowl, and the bowl's filled with water. And then in the chapter, Master's describing, this makes, or actually he did it through another disciple of Babaji who was there at the palace and in the cave. And he describes to him how it's nothing, how you can just materialize your thoughts. Now, it's one thing when you're up with an ever-living master and this beautiful temple's there, but just imagine the power of our thoughts. Imagine what happens when we have a negative thought about somebody or a judgment, anything that goes on. I mean, see how powerful it is. Somebody asked me yesterday, what does that mean, thoughts or words? There's so much more than words. Everything we think affects the entire universe. It's so hard for these little brains to imagine that, but it's true. But here we are being given a tool where we can undo that. And I was saying the art and science, that chapter covers the science of it. And somebody raised the point yesterday that the physicists these days, that this is quantum physics. They're saying the same thing. That's the science of it. What is the art of it? And I was just telling Kalamali this morning that after you get Kriya, it's very good. We do this in Palo Alto 2 weeks later. Everybody comes in. We check their Kriyas. We invite people back and back and back. Let us check your Kriyas. Let us help you fine-tune this technique. Just lost my train of thought. Let me see if I can get it back. No, it's not going to come back. I think I was still up in the Himalaya, but I can't remember right now. Okay, we'll just move on. Well, I was talking about, I know where I was going. Good, it just came back in. I was telling Kalamali this morning, we were talking about checking Kriyas. I said, the first question I ask people when I'm checking that Kriya is they come in, I say, how are you doing? How is your practice going? Are you enjoying it? Do you like sitting down? That's so important. The energy that we bring, if we're not enjoying it, if we're not looking forward to meditation, that's where we need to start, not with the technique itself, which of course I'm not going to speak about right now, but the technique becomes absolutely meaningless because it's the whole art of it. You can read everywhere, and everything Swami Kriyananda has written. Kriya is not simply a technique. It's a way of life. I was listening to a talk he gave a couple of weeks ago. I forget why, but he says, first of all, he was talking about the fact that it allows us to, I was just looking to see if I brought this, but darn it, I didn't bring that. I wanted to tell you exactly what he said, but I can't. Let me just finish that thought. And he's talking about how it's a way of life. And he said, it's in you, it's everything. It's how you look at people when you're speaking. It's in your posture. It's in all of your attitudes. Because Kriya is, as Devarshi says so beautifully, it's a condition. It's a pranayama. It's a condition. So just knowing that the path that we're on, we have to hold it, that everything we do is Kriya. Everything. Everything is about getting into our spine. Everything is about controlling reactive processes. If we're serious about where we're going. If we're not serious, who's going to bother with all of this? But if we really want to be on this path, and we really want to realize those states, and as I said, it's quite amazing to hear a story where somebody even one other story about Maria. She left three weeks later. Wasn't a long transition from MRI to leaving. She wouldn't see anybody, nobody. She had lived at that village for decades, except Jyotish and Devi. So they actually came up from Southern California where they were staying. They went and they visited her. They talked a little bit, and at one point she said to them, okay, that's enough. Get out of here, go back, you have work to do. That was the end. And she was just that okay. I mean, again, these are huge stories that are meaningful in terms of letting us really feel this journey that we're on. I just want to see what else I want to tell you. Does anybody have any comments or questions at this point? I'll keep talking, but feel free to just ask a question if you have it, any question. Don't worry. I promise you that the answer will be good for everybody. Swami Kriyananda said at one point in some book that he wrote, outward ritual cannot destroy ignorance. Ignorance means all of our likes and dislikes. It doesn't mean stupid, or it means the way we live out of tune with the greater reality, with the greater truth of what's going on here. And he said, it can't destroy it because they're not mutually exclusive. So he's saying nothing that we do outwardly will really help us. Nothing. Now, again, imagine this when we think of how much we try and order our lives, and how much we even try and order other people's lives, but how often we feel that if we can just get this right, whatever it is, you may need to buy a new house, that may be in your karma, you may need a certain pair of shoes, you might need to get yet another degree, you know? And we always think if we do that we'll get it right. And Swamiji's saying, do not fool yourself. Every bit of change, every bit of transformation that's meaningful can only happen internally at the level of energy. Everything we talk about with Kriya has to do with two things. Most importantly, the guru-disciple relationship. Most importantly. In fact, does anybody here remember what Yogananda says? Lakshmi, you might remember. He doesn't even call it the guru-disciple. He says that he's talking about India. And he says something about the disciple.
The beginning of a what? Yeah, the disciple-guru relationship.
But what does he say? What's this? So he's saying India, which I think most of us know, really continues in spite of all that's happening in India. And I'm not going to speak about all of that. Probably many of you know some of the things that are happening there that are rather unfortunate in terms of evolution. But it's the same.
The characteristic features of Indian culture have long been the search for ultimate verities.
And the disciple-guru relationship. He's saying this is where the greatness of India lies. In the disciple-guru relationship, we always call it the guru-disciple, so it's hard for me to turn it around. But so did he many times. That is the absolute essence of Kriya, because Kriya is based on energy. Energy has magnetism, and we need the magnetism of the guru. That's what we need. It's like putting a huge magnet right here, so that when we're all confused and angry or jealous or sad or whatever we are, and the energy is stuck here, and no matter how hard we try, we can't make it go up. If we raise our energy, right? Lakshmi's going to tell you soon. The greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. The greater the flow of energy, the greater the magnetism. And that's what we're looking for, because we want our energy, the energy that we are. We're not working with some outside force, to come up enough that the guru's magnet can get a hold of it. Basically, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. That's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, we're just hearing a story of how it works. Yeah. And, you know, we're talking days in a row about Kriya. It's always the same thing. It's like, gee, what else can we say for an hour and a half? But it's really basically the same thing. We are energy. We are energy, and as soon as we learn how to get a hold of that energy and put it where we want it and work with it, our lives change. They're transformed. That is the path of Kriya. We just keep talking about it in all these different ways. So, you. You know, that's a really important point. Thank you. When I first took Kriya, I was on my way to becoming a physician. All of these things were coming together in my life. And very quickly after training, as you all know this already, but it's meaningful to this, developed one of the larger medical practices in the United States. I say that because it's true. When we moved to managed care, these people came around all over the country and they did these valuations of our practice. So people got to see, you have the largest practice, you have the second, in the whole United States. It was pretty compelling. My practice was right up there. Of course it was, because it was all master. I mean, it was all part of the master plan. So I don't take any credit for that at all. But the reason I'm saying it now is because, as you can imagine, I was busy. I mean, I was talking to Ashwin yesterday about this. You know, you're in life, whether it's a huge medical practice, whether it's a family with little kids, so they, you know, you cannot say to a 5-year-old, I'll get back to you in a couple days. You could say it to a 17-year-old. It's different. Life changes like that. But when you have little kids, you have a family, suddenly a parent becomes sick, you have big jobs. Jobs are, I don't really know what all of you do, but in Silicon Valley, the people that I meet, they tell me if they don't work all of these hours and often late into the night because they're working with people in India, it's very demanding. And you add to those people who have those jobs 2 little kids and everything else. This is very hard, but I'm going to say this. Here is the one thing that we can never account for with our minds, and that is grace. That is God's grace that comes along with this practice. So again, there's only so much I can say about Kriya, but those of us who have been practicing for a long time, we keep adding things. The practice gets longer and longer. But let's say you're beginning Kriya, and we say to you, we're going to add something to your practice that will take 10, 15 minutes max. And what if all you did, because you have, I keep picking on Ashwin just because I know his story and everybody can relate to it. You have those 2 little kids. They're not going to grow up overnight because you get Kriya. He's going to have those kids there for quite a while where he's totally responsible and he's working and he's really helping to run his house, whatever. You know, you have a pediatrician who's got a medical practice over here. I just don't know all of you. But the one thing that you can't account for is how much more energy you're going to get. This is a remarkable phenomenon. So if you can say, I'm going to really, for those 15 minutes, well, it's more, because let's say 45 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night, by the time you do everything, you're starting there. That's a starting point. Let's say, and Swamiji used to tell us when we were talking about Kriya, if you're not meditating 2 hours a day, you're not ready for Kriya. But I feel he was up at Ananda Village, this idyllic place in the hills. Everybody was doing Kriya. Nothing started in the morning before 10 because everybody was doing it, which was wonderful. It gave this whole work the grounding that it needed. From that, people who learn to practice their meditation absolutely faithfully and regularly, then they could take it out into the world. But in Silicon Valley, if I said, you have to be meditating 2 hours a day or I won't give you Kriya, means I won't approve it because I've been asked in this life now to do it. It's not an egoic kind of I, but it's a responsibility I've been given. Many people have been given it. There's many Kriyacharyas. So this is not about me. I'm trying to say that clearly. Nobody would get Kriya. Almost nobody would get Kriya. Very few people who are already meditating 2 hours a day before Kriya. So I had a little talk with Master and Babaji and Swamiji in my mind, And we decided people don't have to be meditating 2 hours a day. But if you can do 45 minutes and a half hour, what will happen to you is that you will get more energy. This is true. You will need less sleep. This is a transformational practice. I went through, I told you, but it's important, Stanford Medical School, then 4 years of medical training, never less than 120 hours a week in the hospital, stressful work. I wasn't just resting in the hospital, working, not sleeping. I never quit meditating. People used to say to me, how do you do that? And I would say, how do you not do it? Because they were exhausted and stressed, and I was walking, this is true, walking. I'm saying it, not about me. Please don't hear this about me. I'm telling you for you. This is the path of Kriya. I was walking around Stanford campus medical school saying to people, and this is true, isn't this great? I love medical school. They were looking at me like I was from some other planet. It was hard work. You know, they felt terrified. They were kids too. I wasn't kids. I started medical school when I was 32 and on the path with Master. So I was blessed in that way. So I wasn't worried about the next evaluation or being the best and I mean, it was just planned so that I could see it in a different way. I'd already been a nurse for 14 years. I understood how hospitals worked. So I had a great advantage, but the advantage I had was truth. It wasn't like some flighty, it wasn't me. It was this practice. No matter how busy your life is, of course life is busy, and of course things happen, but we think we're gonna fix that first, then we'll meditate. We're gonna get through as soon as the kids are older, as soon as my partner understands better, no, you know, last week, I know. We did a course at Ananda Palo Alto during the pandemic. It was a book study on Swamiji's Secrets of Emotional Healing. I cannot recommend it too highly. And I think you can get it on our site, but I don't know where it is. If they go to Ananda, you can get it through Lakshmi. Secrets of Emotional Healing. It took over a year. It was a phenomenal course. I swear Swamiji came in and gave every talk. After the first 2, there was a little, I had to realize he was doing it, not me. Anyway, now Lakshmi and I are doing it with Portland online. So once a month we get together, we watch that talk that I gave, then we discuss it. It's wonderful. Right before we left to come here, we did it on insecurity, the secret of overcoming insecurity. And I don't remember how the secret reads, what Swamiji says, but here's why I'm saying it now. He described, it's 1 or 2 sentences, but what he was saying is that if you're off center, if you're over here, you feel insecure. You do. If you come back here, you feel secure. And I saw that image when we were sharing with Portland, and I realized that's what we do in life. We're out here thinking that we need to fix things, we need to take care of everyone, whatever we think we need to do. We're not doing it. It's a dream. God is doing it. As soon as we get into the Sushumna, which is where we're headed, and with Hong Sa and with Kriya, then we feel so secure. And all of that happens, and then we realize, and it comes up in life all the time when you're watching for it. You'll be worried. Something happens, it gets taken care of. Then you say to yourself, what was I worrying about? Asha's statement that she repeats all the time, so I have to give her credit, is, when will we learn that we don't have to worry about anything? Well, we'll learn when we're free. But this is very important in life, to really practice that. And we can't talk ourselves into it. We have to transform. when we transform. That's why if you're lost, if you can't meditate, if you're anxious, if you're worried, start doing, this word's just left me. It's a very common word. But just repeat a mantra. Do japa, over and over. And Master said, you just repeat God, Christ, Guru. How simple is that? You say those words, God, Christ, Guru. Now, the whole point about Kriya is that it's such a refined version of all of this. It's really spoken of. I think it was Ananda who said, it's the best practice ever given to mankind, that through self-effort you can find God. The highest, best practice. So japa works, hangasal works, but if we haven't yet attained that state, Kriya really works. And it works in a way, and when I'm in Palo Alto, I'm feeling a little bit of it right now because I just looked at Shayla and stories that I won't tell come to mind. But I know everybody in the congregation so well. And there's so many examples of life being over here and like this and feeling like, and then watching them come here. Of course, it happens in my own life too. They're watching me as well. But you just see it. So I think really, when we think about how to balance, there is the reality of it. You do actually need to carve out a little bit of time. Honestly, people have asked me, they've actually come to me and said about their Kriya practice, but what if I don't have enough time in the morning? What kind of a question is that? Get up earlier. It's true. Some people say, well, I sleep in a lot. Stop. Don't do that. This is Kriya. Set an alarm clock that's in the next room, so you have to get up and, whatever we need to do. I get up at 4:30 every morning, and it's so ingrained in me. I said to Lakshmi the last few mornings, darn, why am I waking up at 4:30? I don't have to be up at 4:30. Sadhana doesn't start here till 6. But it's here. It's 4:30. Time to wake up. This is when you energize. Now, everybody doesn't have to wake up at 4:30, but you know what? It's a beautiful time of the day, and it is a quiet time in the universe. And there's so many stories that are coming to mind now. But if you watch people who are in like monasteries, Buddhist monks, you go to those monasteries, that's when they're up, I think even earlier, 3 or 3:30. Why? Because everything in the universe is supporting us then. And it's just a habit. Develop the habit. You can go to bed a little earlier, or you don't need as much sleep. I don't know what else to say. You just don't have to go to bed earlier. So make it work in your life. Just tell yourself. Don't whine. We do so much whining. Sometimes I want to make one of those circle things with a line through it that would say no whining. Because we do. Stop it. We just have to stop these habits, break these habits. I said it yesterday, I'll say it again, I'll really say it tonight. We've been offered such a gift here. We can't just turn away from it. It's such a subtle question. How do we get to that place where we can tune into the inspiration? And I want to just say this. This has been a real eye-opener for me coming here. I said to Kalamali this morning, I want you to make sure that you meet in person with Ashwin in 2 weeks. She looked at me like I was crazy. I thought you lived in Sydney. She said, Shanti, he drove 8.5 hours to get here. So, and Eliza flew. She didn't even know what she was coming to. She had to get on a plane for a few hours, a couple of hours, 2.5, I think she told me. Everybody, New Zealand. this is a challenge. It's a challenge. I mean, I just want to be honest about it. It's so beautiful. It's such a gift. I think it's very, very good karma to be living in a community where everybody comes with their personalities, mind you. So you still at times get really irritated with people because it's not like you move into community and there aren't, the personalities are there. But everybody has the same goal. And in the end, we can all meet. And I want to say that in-person sadhana is incredibly important. You will go home and feel more inspired than you did. And it might come down after a while, because Asha was here, then we are here, and in June, Pranaba and Sagar will be here. And I asked, I keep getting Kamala Devi and Kalamali question, like she was talking to me about somebody, and I said, why isn't she here? And I didn't, it wasn't even with judgment. It's like, why wouldn't somebody be here? It's just hard for me to imagine. There are answers that you could say, her mother's in her last few days and she couldn't leave, or something like this that would make sense to me, but not much. There aren't many things. So first of all, I want to say, do as much as you can do in person. It matters. It's worth it. If the path means anything, look how great we're all feeling. And I was thinking about this yesterday because we were out on the ocean and I was sort of worried about leeches and other things. And, we were doing all this stuff. And then we come back and it's 10 after 2. I'm saying to myself, well, I have to give a talk in 20 minutes. And then I just said to myself, but you've been in this energy, nothing's changing. And then we came together and it was lovely. It was lovely there, it was lovely here. Our energy is great. We're together, we feed each other, we help each other. We don't even know it's going on, but we're uplifted. If we had to do a big push right now, like get ready for Kriya tonight, and maybe you would think typically you'd go home and lay down or whatever. No, there won't be time, but we'll find the joy in that. And if you don't happen to have joy right now, the person right next to you will. It's so powerful when you join a meditation that's going to be a 3-hour meditation, and at 2 hours you think, I'm done, I did a lot, whatever. But the energy in the room, you just slip back into it. So I know that's very hard, that's one thing. But you have to work, it's like double time, what all of you need to do to the next best thing. Be online, watch the talks, everything Jyotish and Devi have done. They are so uplifting and inspiring. I mean, Asha there's a lot of her talks online. Find your flavor. Everybody has a different flavor. There's so many great teachers around Ananda, and everybody just has different energy. But prayer works, And I was just telling somebody this morning, if you can't meditate, get a notebook, keep it at your altar. Make sure you have an altar, by the way. I don't care how little it is. Bring something to it that's going to remind you of God. Have a notebook there and just start writing mantra. So you don't have to meditate if it's too hard, because it just is too hard at times. I have honestly filled up literally at least 100 books with mantra, and when I couldn't meditate. So it's a very hard question you're asking, because it's a big, big challenge. So I wish it was a better answer, but you're asking me, how do I find inspiration? And it's in the practice, and it's sort of like a difficult, teach your children to chant and have them chant with you. I honestly, I mean that. But that works well. I mean, when you make it a family effort, they don't have to buy the path, but just do things so that you're home is more uplifted. The question she's asking is, can you make up your own mantra or affirmation or something? That's beautiful. I mean, it really is, and I think you could do it. But the affirmations that Swamiji and Master have given us, and these ancient mantras, they've been imbued with so much uplifting spiritual energy. And, it's when I don't teach beginning meditation anymore, but when I did, and I would talk about Hong Sa, and everybody was just walking in off the street. Some of them, and we're very close to Stanford, so the scientists were coming literally. The students and grad students, they didn't think about God, they didn't believe in God. What they really wanted was something like mindfulness, where they were going to be given a technique to just calm down. And all we teach is about God. But I used to say to them, you could say, I am that, I am joy, I am love. You could take the 8 aspects of the divine and turn Hong Sa into that. But the Sanskrit language is based a lot on its vibration. And that vibration, and so I say to people all the time, because we do the Gayatri mantra and the Mahamudra mantra every Sunday morning. And the interpretation is up on the wall, but I say to people, or the words are actually not don't worry about what it means right now. Just feel the vibration of it. So I think we have a higher octave and option to choose from. On the other hand, if you're struggling with something and it comes to you, by all means, use it. But having Swamiji and Master and the Masters for so many years, why not tune into them? Why would we do it any other way? One of the comments that I've heard for so many years, particularly in Kriya reviews, so you get Kriya, then you come to a review, and people always manage to ask, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we sort of change this? And Swamiji and Jyotish always say, this is how Master taught us. This is what Master, he was a master after all. Do it this way. So for those of you who have Kriya, that's important. For those of you who will get Kriya, it's taught in a very specific way for reasons. So we don't want to be adjusting things too much. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. This is, it's so important what Kamala Devi's saying, because Swamiji's music it's all inspired. He received it all. He would say he never wrote a piece of music. So it's a very good suggestion. I didn't quite get to it when I said you teach your kids to chant with you, which I believe. But it's really, I feel also what Kamala Devi is saying. You just turn the music on. In my home, there's a recording of Swamiji chanting Om. I don't know what you call that. It repeats, but yeah, however they did that electronically. And my friend Sai Ganesh gave me, they sell them in India now, but they're bigger. He gave me this tiny little thing, somehow on some little chip or whatever, however this stuff works. I don't do that, and it's beyond me. So, but it's constantly, 24/7. It's on in my home, very softly, chanting just that Om constantly. And whether you even hear it or not, the vibration is uplifting, because music, which is what Kamala Devi is referring to, and I really am glad that you brought it up, it's beyond mind. So you don't have to think, you don't have to try. The music just lifts you up. So it's a really good suggestion to just have it and use it. Yeah. Master's chants, which are in, it's called cosmic chants, and you can get them, of course, online if you don't have them. They're so deep and so calming. very different. There you go. There's the book. Very different, and they come on, boy, now I'm sure it's just all, what do you call it? It's just, you just download it from the web. But I have all the CDs just to show how old I am. And there are so many of them, so much of his music that's available. Very, very deep and very calming. It has a different vibration, really, than Swamiji's music in a way. So. The spiritual path is very interesting because we have to reach certain levels before we see certain things. It's just, and it's, it's a reality, right? When you just decide not to meditate. But I do want to say one thing about that. And of course, I've been saying, I agree with you. Of course, I agree with Nora. It's such a gift. I've said it 100 times. And it's a joy. When you slip into a great meditation, when that happens, then you just want to keep coming back. It takes practice. But the other thing that I said yesterday that I think is really important, and it's very important, is you go to take Kriya, everybody who's taken Kriya, we made a vow. We made a vow with Babaji that we would practice this. So it's not like you just want to say, gee, sorry, Babaji, I can't make it today. It's serious. And I really mean it. When people are on a fence, I say to them, if you think you can't live up to this vow, who was it that I was just talking to? Swamiji gave higher Kriyas. Did I say this here yesterday? At the village, the first time. He wouldn't give it again for 10 years because he noticed that most people weren't practicing. He wouldn't do it. It's not, we've moved into a realm. And I was trying to make this clear yesterday when I was talking about brushing your teeth, those inane things that we just get up and do. You take Kriya, you get up and do it. You take Kriya, you say to your family, everybody, I need 30 minutes. I need 30 minutes. I have made this vow with an ever-living master who's here with me, and invite Babaji to go with you and meditate with you. And I can promise you this, if you make that invitation, if you say, come on, I can't find the inspiration right now, come with me, he will. That's another interesting story. And I really mean that. I'm not saying he's going to appear to you, but you'll feel his energy lifting you up. They want us to succeed. They all want us to succeed. They want to feel our presence with them. They're an energy that's only waiting to help us complete ourselves. It's so strange to find the words, but we hear it all the time. All they're waiting for is our love. And our love will come through these meditations. I just had, remember this story in the AY? Because Babaji told, now, was this Lahiri or Sri Yukteswar? Who? Lahiri. If you call me, I will be there. And then Lahiri got into this thing of wanting to show off to his friend. Sri Yukteswar, that's what I thought. So he sat there and he said, I met Babaji. That, no, you didn't. Yes, I can bring him right here. So he calls him Babaji. And Babaji said to him, I came this time, but I won't come again for this. This is egoic. You call me when you need help, and I'll be there. That's quite a promise, isn't it? So I think it's just another thing about inspiration. Remember, we have to remember to ask for help. And I will say, I'll tell you in just a minute, I know from personal experience, many, many years on this path, many hours of meditating and a lot of Kriya, how often I've forgotten to call on God and ask for help. Literally one time when I thought I was dying in Mexico, and I thought I was dying, I told my friends, I'm dying. I was the doctor, we were joking yesterday. It's really bad when the doctor gets sick. It scares the heck out of everybody. And they said to me, what do you mean? And I said, I don't know what's going on, but whatever that is that's called life force. I was laying on the dirt floor of a I forget what they're called in Mexico, but this little hut-type place that we were staying in. And I just said to them, I'm very sick, and they could see I was sick. And I said to them, don't worry, it's not your fault. I'm okay, but I'm okay to die. They were freaking out. I had 3 girlfriends around me. Of course they were. And all of a sudden, this memory, Asha had just given a talk about when Swamiji wanted to have meet a disembodied being. He wanted to do that. So he invited that disembodied being in. And the minute that being got into his consciousness, he knew he was going to lose, and it was dangerous. He was in danger. And he screamed for Master. And in that instant, he was freed. And Asha had just told that story in a Sunday service. And I was I was dying. Turns out I had hepatitis. I was very sick. And I said, oh, that's right. I remember. I should go. And it was like this, Master, Master. But instantly I started feeling, instantly. And I always say when I tell the story, people from Palo Alto have heard it a lot, I should be too embarrassed to tell it because how could I forget? But we do. But it's important. It's also another very good point because if you don't feel that you can sit, if you get up and serve, it raises your energy, which also even makes your meditation better. But remember, Swamiji was told by Master, your life will be a life of seva and meditation. That's what he was told. You'll give a lot in the world and you'll meditate a lot. And seva is also, Swamiji created, I think he created it, Shivani might have, I'm not sure, it doesn't matter, an image of the third eye. I was thinking we were at our altar, I forgot, but you all know what it is. It's gold and blue and that star in the middle that's on all of our altars. And then there's these 5 words with lines coming right into the middle. And seva, they're called the 5 S's, but so it's sadhana, we talk about first, but then seva second. It's very important on our path. It opens your heart. It creates a space when you serve, when you do anything, either for someone else or in this instance, actually we're really serving the masters, but the first few years I went to Ananda in Palo Alto, I used to close my medical practice Thursday afternoon, every Thursday, and go in. We had bought a church, and there were still pews in it, wooden pews. They're long gone now. And I used to go in every Thursday and wipe and wax all of the pews. It took me hours. I did it every week. So from medicine to cleaning those pews, but it was so uplifting. It was amazing. It's a beautiful sanctuary, anyway, that we have, and just alone in there. So, yeah, the path of Kriya. Now that we're bringing up all of these points, we don't have time, and it's okay. It'll all come at some point or another. That's why we keep taking classes and how we keep learning on our path. And we hear some of the same things and some new things, but seva is incredibly important. The more that we can say yes when we're asked to do things. It's not just us. I've often told people at Palo Alto, every time you say yes, I feel like I want to do more and more and more. It's so inspiring to everybody around us. I think we should stop and take a break, and we have a half hour before Lakshmi's class. 15 minutes. That's good. Yeah, that's fine. Great. Okay, all right. Thank you all.